Okay, and then this one basically shows how you could be put on the list. Okay, if you don't meet these AMOs, or these annual measurable objectives, for 1 year, then you're identified being put on the watch list. It's kind of that you're on probation type thing. And then if you don't make AMO again for a second consecutive year, then you are identified as a school or a district in need of assistance. The tough part is that once you're on that list, to get off that list, you have to then meet your annual measurable objectives for 2 more consecutive years. A year ago, if you recall, 2 years ago, we were identified as a district in need of assistance because of that. Last year, we made our measurable objectives as a district, and so we were not cited last year, but we were on a delay list. You will see this year we did not meet that, so now we're back on the list as a DINA 2, which means we're at the second level of a district in need of assistance. So if we would have made it this year, then we would have been off the list totally, and then we'd have been good for 2 more years. But we didn't quite make it, as with most schools. Then I also want to remind you that this is a federal law that really only pertains to Title I schools. It does impact pretty much every school district because we receive Title I funds as a district, but unless you have a certain percent of students that are on free and reduced lunch, you may not be qualified as a Title I school. And the sanctions for No Child Left Behind really only impact the Title I schools. And we'll identify those for you as far as our schools in a second as well. They still put you on the list. So, for example, our high school may be a school in need of assistance, but there's no sanctions that go with it. It's just the label that you are a school in need of assistance. But if it's one of our Title I schools, then there are some sanctions you'll see that we have to put in place as a result of that.
And the one time where it does make a difference is if you're a SINA 2 school, you get school, or SINA 1 or SINA 2, you can have school choice. The school choice has to be a school that's not, does not have a SINA 1 designation. And so even if you're not, if, like in our case, this year Southdale was a SINA school, so we could not offer them as a school choice, even though they're not a Title I school. That makes sense.
And you'll see how that impacts us a little bit more. This is just a timeline of some things I mentioned already earlier, that the test changed in 2012 or 2011. They went to the NSS and so forth, and that we moved in 2011 to spring testing, and that also changed our norming group. And so that impacted our scores as well back in 2011, but we've been there now for 4 or 5 years. So it has minimal impact, and you'll see that as we go through as well. This is now what they are using to determine proficiency. And it's a raw score, raw NSS score that students would get on the Iowa assessment to determine whether they're proficient or not proficient. We have to have 3 levels, so they also have an advanced proficiency. So in order for a student to be classified as proficient, they have to be above, at 3rd grade, for example, they have to be above the 174 national NSS score to be on that.
And the reason why a lot of people like the NSS better is because it actually is a growth continuum. So it shows growth better than what the national percentile rank did.
And you'll be able to see that, especially when we get into the Iowa assessment report that we get.
Dan, this may be a dumb question. Why isn't the not proficient a less than that number?
You know, I don't know why they put a range there. Yeah, because the average student or that are in that is the range. That's a good question. And this is what it is for math as well. They do not have that same chart for science because No Child Left Behind only looks at reading and math. It does not require you to, well, it requires you to give an assessment in science. It's just not counted towards No Child Left Behind. This is what Iowa used as their trajectory starting back in 2001 when No Child Left Behind was first implemented as the level that schools needed to reach to be classified as meeting No Child Left Behind. Their understanding was that they were going to go 3 years with the same, then go up it a little bit, go 3 more years, up it a little bit, go 3 more years, and then they were hopeful that by about 2010, the whole law would be reauthorized and the rules of the game would change. Because then, as you can see, every so now we're at 100%, and that's what the level is, the bar is for all school districts.
I think they were hopeful in 2012 because they were supposed to jump it to 88 and they kept it at 82, and then all of a sudden it jumped to just hoping maybe
Yeah.
for one more year or what.
And it didn't
Yeah.
pan out. So, when we talk about a school in need of assistance or a district in need of assistance, this is what we basically are talking about. Again, I mentioned only Title I schools are subject to sanctions, and in our district, that's Cedar Heights, Lincoln, North Cedar, and Orchard Hill are our Title I schools. Really have any sanctions put on them as a result of not meeting the AMOs. A school district must meet that AYP as a district for reading and math separately, so we can be identified as a district in need of assistance, and you'll see as a district because it was because of one of the two. And again, we've talked about this. They actually look at the scores in grade spans. So they look at scores for those groups of students that are in grades 3 through 5, 6 through 8, and then grade 11. And so they combine those together to makes it very difficult for us as a school district when we're trying to figure out requirements. And so even though we to report, we have to have the number of schools by the school groups, education, or is. So you can give the piece of it.